Dear friends, I have a report today. The name of the report, The Trajectory of Light, a methodological analysis of cosmogenesis, anthropogenesis, and theogenesis. Light is one of the main components of such a diverse great concept as culture. Culture is translated as follows. Cult is worship. Is light. Culture is worship of light. I would like to focus a little more on the concept of culture. It is the main link between different spheres of human life, different areas of religions, philosophical and scientific concepts. The secret doctrine is given as a synthesis of science, religion, and philosophy. The synthesis is connection, or unity. By studying this great work, we learn the truth. How do we do it? Getting to know ourselves. If we want to know ourselves, and then we must be able to know the truth. As we know, it is the light that manifests the truth. In other words, light is an evolutionary necessity. HPB wrote, "For within you is the light of the world, the one light that can shine on the path. If you are unable to see it within yourself, it is useless to look for it elsewhere. It is outside of you, because if you reach it, you will lose yourself." That is, the movement of light, it takes place within us. We, approaching the light, merge with it into a single whole, and in this sense we lose ourselves. As far as the love of truth lives within us, so much are we striving to know ourselves. So much can we accept this light. In the book Ways of the Spirit by Helena Roerich, she writes, "He whose mind is free from the illusion of selfhood will stand and not fall in the battle of life. He who has cultivated the love of truth in his mind will live and not die, for he has drunk the beverage of immortality." That is, by freeing the mind from the self, we cultivate the life of truth or merge with the light. The less self, the more love, the closer we get to the light. Studying the secret doctrine, we often find in the stanzas such concepts as light, fire, flame, spark, ray. Are they all single? If there is a source, and what is the gradation of this movement, and how ultimately can it all be reflected, and how can it all be necessary for human evolution? Helena Roerich wrote that it is possible to build a new era only by signs of culture, so culture will be pronounced as the only self-defense against corruption. Culture, like the worship of light, prepares our mind for liberation from the self. The speed of light depends on the purity of our consciousness, and the speed of our thinking, and the speed of what we do, of our attention. It all depends on the purity of our consciousness. If we miss something out, it means that we are not clean. It means that our attitude was not clean. There are different concepts: attitude and relation. The white light, that is the clean state, and that is that state. As soon as we have this correlation, sound and light, then we have a certain correlation. And it is for this reason that Buddhists look for the light, and they're looking for a special state. I now suggest that we reflect on this topic together. how the trajectory of light is directly related to the development of consciousness, to the perfection of the nature of the mind, or to the liberation from the self. There is a great book, it is called Cosmogonic Treatises, written by Tatiana Platonova. It gives several succinct and deep explanations of the movement of light. Light does not depend on the dimensions of space, nor on any parameters of the spheres. It is involved at once in the entire life of the universe and passes through all spheres, forming in them the structure of the matter that they need for the evolution. We can talk about this topic for a very quite long time, but we will proceed. This means that the movement of light passes through all the planes of being. This is the structures of the cosmos, nature, and man, or cosmogenesis, anthropogenesis, or theogenesis. But how do we know this movement? And this book gives us a description. When you know half of what God knows, you will enter the holes and will not be able to leave them. The magnet will hold you tight and you will lose yourself. Again, this phrase, you lose yourself. Or you will become a magnet yourself. But how and when can this happen? And what does it actually mean? Half of what God knows. And here's an idea. Half of what God knows is to learn that you know nothing. The symbol of this state. If this is a special state of the space or the consciousness, then half of what God knows is the first diameter of movement, of light, of ray. And then it comes to a point that is in the densest state. And in this point, there is a human who aims for evolution. And at that point, human needs to know that he knows nothing and needs to accept that. It means that you, figuratively speaking, reach the half, then we fall, and we rise or ascend only after we find support. It is not possible to ascend if you've known so much. This is the law that the secret doctrine gives. It is also given in Agni Yoga and many other Buddhist treatises. And this is this point from which you've reached this place. And only then can you ascend. You can push off, you can jump off, or you need to admit that you know nothing. And then you can become pure and happy. And only then from this point, you can begin to ascend. In order to know the ray of light, you must become the light yourself. This means that you need to have the vibration of most of the beam threads, that is, their total value. Suppose the value is Q, and Q is determined by the wavelength and the number of cells on a single thread. You can become light if you perceive most of the Q's of a single stream. That is, the Q of our self will be Q self equals Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3, etc. That is, the formula for approaching the light is simple. The increase in light is directly proportional to how we perceive it, or how much we were able to become light and catch the higher vibration. That is, the length of a single stream and the number of cells on the beam thread. Know yourself. This is the law of the initiates. To do this, you need to catch the note of the sound, or in other words, find the main vibration of the light of your body. It's beam thread. It means simply finding yourself or finding your state of consciousness, or that through which you can know this truth, your ray. No one will do this for yourself. All of the information that we read, it is almost impossible to transmit this information to anybody else. And for this, all the teachings were further transmitted through symbols, and each person can look at the symbols and then learn them and then understand them and come closer to the truth. The beam has light characteristics. Each ray has a node. This is where it touches upon the parameters of the space matter. Vibration is a pulsation of focused light flux within the channel. And here's what's interesting. The channel can be a narrow passage or the entire area as a whole. And the node is formed by magnetic bonds. This magnetic coupling is the superposition of rays on one another. One ray is not a stable connection, and two rays give a stable connection. And cognition of the world happens through the penetration of vibrations of one world into another. And that is, each ray goes through space. It carries a flux of information. This information is in this cell of the beam thread. This is the light flux, and this is the world. There are three worlds, three rays. They are the fundamental trajectory of light, according to the secret doctrine by HPB. Three rays together form a gate, the great symbol of the triad. It is often called banner of peace, which is the unity of science, religion, art, in the ring of culture. Much has been written about this by Helena Roerich. There is a system with many nodes. The symbol, three rays together, create this node. It is often called a gate. It means that the connection with other rays forms yet another node, and so on and so forth. And in the end, we receive a net. Three fall into four, and so on to infinity. They send their light streams not into the universal world, but into themselves and focus at one point. So the point is the gate. This is how the world gathers. This is how God is born in man. The heart opens. And then, when the heart opens, the first light stream is directed from the heart, where the structure of the world begins from. This is how interesting it is. Just imagine, we cannot build the world, we cannot build our consciousness without opening our hearts. And this is this mechanics that creates this dead state. We are not living. The connection process depends on the speed of the light, although it does not have such a characteristic as speed. It does not have speed. You cannot characterize it with speed. This is an entirely different aspect, but you can change the direction of the light beam. And here is how we can do it. Less negative thoughts and more thoughts that bring joy and lightness to the heart. And at this moment, knowledge passes inside of you, inside your true state. And if the light beam is directed inward, it has absorbed all the light. The ray represents pure knowledge. The ray that begins this movement, each ray has collected the light of all of the spaces that it has passed. It means that it has gathered all of the knowledge. Helena Roerich writes in The World of Fire, only a ray that strikes can purify accumulations. There becomes more saturated flow, not only by light, but also by subtle knowledge. That is the light of space. It breathes, it pulsates, it is alive. It is quite curious that there is this structure of space, and we need to talk about the elements here. Each element has a center, and It also has in center inside of it the evolution of the subtle body consists in strengthening the ability to create rings from the centers, grouping them in 12 around the 13th. These connections are not random and they have their own patterns. First, the rings are grouped into three. They create a tetra, unity of three rings, and they have 39 connections inside. Then they form a quadra. They're grouped into four and have 52 connections inside. Four tetras. It is the concept of base. This is the first square. It has 156 connections. 156 in total equals 12. Then they are formed into triangle by internal processes, which is in fact is an alchemical transformation. The lower nature becomes higher, given it primacy. The number of nodes in a tetra and in a quadra is the same. There are 156, or a total of 12. 52 by 3 equals 156, and 39 by 4 equals 156. And what is 12? 1 plus 2 plus 3? We have 3, or we have the gate. This action, the structure 12 around 13, can be identified with Kala Chakra. In the world of fire, Helena Rurik writes, data about Kala Chakra is silent. This is not only out of ignorance, but out of horror to touch the basics. And she also wrote, I approve Kala Chakra. This fiery teaching is dusty but needs to be announced. Not reason, but wisdom gave this teaching. 12. Here's what we see. We have 12 sectors on Kala Chakra. 12 horoscope houses, 12 nidans, causes of suffering. And what are they made of? We have 7 basic rays. Orange ray, the orange ray, that is the sun. The next ray is purple, moon, then red ray, Mars, then yellow ray, Mercury. Then we have the blue ray, which is Jupiter, then the dark blue, which is the higher Manas or Venus, and then the green ray, which connects Saturn. These are 7 rays. And Kala Chakra shows us 5 elements. And let's just look at this circle. 7 rays and 5 elements are 12 in total, and we are back with our triad, knowing the 12 causes of suffering, knowing the principles, elements. We have a system of self-knowledge, knowledge in order for a qualitative transformation to occur. In geometry and numbers, this 3 becomes 4, and then 4 becomes 3 again, and that is, the matter is spiritualized. The spirit materializes, and then the matter does too. This is the trajectory of the law. Tetra becomes a quadra, and then quadra becomes tetra. And here is what we have. The main process is to regroup quadra into tetra. First, just take a look at the screen. The ring moves. 1 ring, then 2, then 3. The newly formed tetra has the structure of a triangle. Its top is pointing down. The upper row is strengthened gradually, and the lower one is weakened. So a person who has started a struggle for his inner transformation falls under the blows of karma, which knock the ground out from under his feet, depriving him of the support at the bottom. The main thing here is not to stop, to keep the rhythm, to keep the light or the beam. And when this happens, you maintain this rhythm, you keep this light. It means that you are in light. The prophet said, "Do not be surprised." They were saying, "Lord, I see no darkness. Self-improvement is light, and self-complication is darkness. You can build your life so that every day will be the end, but you can enlighten your life so that every hour will be the beginning. You need to find the courage to remake life as new savings are made." But how? Cosmogony treatises say, "Karmic whirlwinds descended on the daring one, and many of those who were nearby turned away. They need to be forgiven and loved, and then you disappear from where you were once. It's all about the subtle substance, to be and not to be at the same time, be present but as a guest. It's all about the focus of the race. The one who managed to catch on it, to catch on that subtle world, let this point turn into a support, and push it up from the ground, transform his whole life. Then the top of the Tetra will rush into him. This thin fabric can be called Divi prakriti, called the light of the Logos. We know that the plane of the prototypes includes lots of concepts, and it also includes the concept of the light of Divi prakriti. We know that this is the fabric or light, can also be called the light of the Logos. It is this fabric that is not divisible. It cannot be decomposed. There is a certain number beyond which it cannot go. Reaching it, the fabric begins to move backward. It first unfolds, differentiation occurs, and then it folds. And the pattern, it consists of stable elements, or a dense fabric. It means that we do have the pattern. The pattern consists of stable elements, or a dense sphere. In this case, this is a diamond shape. Where does it come from? The planes of being. We can connect. Actually, these points here, this is the plane of prototypes. It helps us to paint the pattern, to create the pattern on this fabric, and it creates the most perfect, the most beautiful world unsurpassed in the art of self-expression. It is called the canvas of the mother of the world. This is the plane of the Ankogans. This is the first hierarchy. This is the first shining ray, the first differentiation of Fohat. It is the one that is aiming, and it gives the first correlation of light combining all these rays. This is the plane of mind and creativity. It cannot be changed, it cannot be finished or corrected, because it is the most stable form of the universe and the most perfect. It contains the harmony and balance of the cosmos. And no matter how beautiful and powerful the light that the sun of our solar system pours out, it seems completely insignificant when compared with its true light. The light that was sent to illuminate the cosmos with the sun, the first and the last. The entire manifested cosmos is in one short visible utterance. And God said, "Let there be light." Here we are at the plane of mind and creativity. White, shining sun of the Father. The Father is hidden in the darkness. And in connection with Mother, it gives the first exhalation. And then the darkness, in one moment, turns into light, white, sparkling, brilliant, unspeakable, incomprehensible, and simultaneously with the birth of light, there is the spiritual energy of the First Trinity. There is something curious about it. Trinity, triad, or threefold is something that we see on each plane of being. It has the root, and we can see then the prototypes on the planes of being. These are the prototypes within this root system of this triad: breathing or movement, sound or will, light or consciousness. Let's take a look at this once again. Breathing or movement, sound, will, light, and consciousness. And we can see the differentiation. We can see what comes from what. We can take a look at the plane of being. We can dwell on every concept, and we can then materialize this. What does it all depend on? On the speed of movement. So if solar light moves at the speed of 200,000 miles per second, then the speed of the absolute light of the central spirit sun's light is the prototype of the sun star. The speed of absolute light of the central spiritual sun exceeds all human calculations. Physics refers to the movement of light, sound, or electricity, that is, the mass motion or vibration of the ether. Molecular vibrations of light give us the sound. The first vibration gives this sound. This is the sound of the logos, of the first manifested logos. This is the star. This is the atomic vibration. And then we have the molecular vibration, or the light that will give birth to color, and so on, until it is the densest. And today we can see the light, hear the sound when it is dense, and maybe not even know the reason. And the reason is always defined by vibration, not by causality. And then we have different planes. Each form created by the guiding energy of Fohat receives its own speed of movement through the principle of form, and this speed increases and decreases as the form evolves, returning to its infinite source with accumulations corresponding to what this form or being has accomplished during its life cycle. Now, let's take a look at the movement of races in the circle of human evolution. We say that there are accumulations of our life cycles. We know that there are human races. We know that there are 7 of them. We are within this circle. How does it all move? We have a beautiful symbol, a circle, and we have races. Races are on this circle: the first, the second, the third, the fourth. The fourth and the first are in one sector. The fifth, the sixth, the third and the sixth races is actually a special discovery. Madame Blavatsky and Agni Yoga have a confirmation of these ideas. The idea is the following. The third race is the race from which the evolution started. We know that that happened in the third race, in the third sub-race. So, when we follow this movement, it is the sixth that equals the third, but it will be conscious. At first, we were given consciousness. We were simply given it. And then, during the human reincarnations, we will become 6, and then 3 and 6 will come together, and we will have 9. This is simple mathematics. And then we have the 7th race. The 7th race is when humans leave the earth. The evolution of human consciousness stops happening on earth, it goes elsewhere. Those who had no monad, they will be destroyed. This is what will happen. And right now we're living exactly at these times. We see it all happening. So the 7th rate, this is the sum of 1, 4, and 7. And 1, 4, and 7 as a sum give us 12. And then we have 3 once again. 3, the triad, or the gate. We have the node of the race. We can see the races. And this is how we can understand the evolution of the dense state of the matter. This is Anthropogenesis, Volume 2. In each world, the gods perform their own tasks, which consist in moving this world to a more subtle self-expression, but in the end, everything is aimed at knowing the canvas itself, to knowing oneself. This does not have much sense. This fabric is living, it is breathing. Inhalation, and then the fabric stops. It is enjoying life within yourself. And for this reason, we're saying that nirvana is wonderful. You simply you enjoy this light, you lose yourself. There is no personality. There is only the supreme self, the highest self. This is where the human evolution starts, right from here. And then there is exhalation. The universe breathes and it lives. It differentiates. It becomes denser. And this fabric is waiting for a time of inner pleasure. And this fabric is so diverse on each plane, but it is constructed with at least one face. If there is one clean face, then we have it. We have the world of self-consciousness, for example. It gets destructed when there is no clean faces, and comes darkness, and everything stops. And it stops only because the lower personality defeated the higher personality. For this reason, the fabric depends on this. In relation to the human evolution of consciousness, is very important. How refined has it become? How much light can it accumulate or become cultured? So the personal knowledge is not about gain, it is not personal. These are all external factors. They have nothing to do with the internal. Cosmogonic treatises say, I open a new path for those who can forget about personalities and serve higher knowledge with their mind and heart. While the smart will fight, the heart will sigh. There will be those who will try to connect the mind with heart and apply these keys in practice. Good day, friends. I bless you with the hand of the great Rosicrucian. Life that liberates the mind contains all the ways of influence in this life, shining and radiating like true culture, the true culture of worship and light, light and love. Thank you very much.